All right, diving right in today. We're taking a closer look at the Joshlin Smith case. Specifically, this whole thing with the confessions from two of the guys accused, Stephen Van Ryn and Jacques Apollos, or Boeta, as he's sometimes called.
Yeah, the case is taking a really interesting turn right now. It's not just a straightforward trial anymore, you know?
Yeah.
What we're seeing now is called a trial within a trial, and it's all about whether those confessions are even going to be allowed as evidence.
Okay, so like a mini trial just to decide about the confessions. Why is that?
Well, it's because Van Ryn and Apollos are saying they were basically forced to confess.
Oh, so they're saying the confessions weren't given freely? That's a
Yes.
big deal.
Huge. They're claiming the police used torture to get those confessions, and the court has to figure out if there's any truth to that before they can even consider using them in the main trial. Legally speaking, the defense doesn't need to completely prove that the confessions were coerced. It's enough for them to just raise reasonable doubt. That's a pretty big difference compared to what the prosecution has to do. Actually prove they were freely given.
So it's not like an even playing field in this trial within a trial.
Exactly. It kind of tilts the scales in favor of protecting the rights of the accused,
Yeah.
innocent until proven guilty and all that.
Makes sense. So where does this second doctor's testimony come in? What are they hoping to find out?
Basically, they're looking for physical evidence that backs up those torture claims. The doctor's going to examine the accused and see if there are any injuries that line up with what they're saying happened when those confessions were supposedly taken.
I guess that makes sense. If you can show there were injuries, it definitely raises questions about how those confessions came about. So for anyone just joining us, remember, Joshlin Smith disappeared over a year ago in Saldanha Bay, and this whole trial is happening at the Western Cape High Court. It's been a huge story, and now with this whole confession thing, things are even more intense. What happens with this doctor's testimony? How could it change things?
Well, if this doctor finds injuries that support what Van Ryn and Apollos are saying, the prosecution's in trouble.
How so?
I mean, it could lead to those confessions being tossed out completely. The prosecution probably sees those confessions as their strongest evidence, right? If they lose that, it could really weaken their whole case.
Even if they have other evidence.
It's possible, yeah. The confessions are likely the cornerstone of their argument, so losing them could make it a lot harder to get a conviction. But, flip side, if the doctor doesn't find any evidence to support the torture claims, then that's a big win for the prosecution. It basically reinforces the idea that the confessions were genuine.
So just to be clear, the big thing happening right now is this separate mini trial to decide whether the confessions are even admissible in the main trial.
Right. And it's a battle of perspectives. The prosecution is probably going to point to the video of those confessions and say, look, it's all right there. But the defense is pushing back hard, saying there was coercion, and now they've got this medical testimony to maybe back that up.
And I guess that's where the second doctor comes in, right? Why even
Yeah.
bring in another doctor? Isn't one enough?
Well, there could be a few reasons. Maybe the first doctor's report wasn't clear-cut, or maybe this second doctor has a different specialty that could provide more specific insights.
Oh, so it's not just about getting a second opinion. It's about getting the right kind of expertise.
Exactly. And you can bet the defense is trying to build the strongest case they can to get those confessions thrown out. And this all brings us back to this fundamental idea of due process.
The idea that everyone deserves a fair trial, right?
Right. The court has to be absolutely sure that any evidence used against someone was obtained legally and without any coercion. And that's especially important in a case like this, where there are so many emotions involved and the stakes are so high.
So really, what we're watching now is a crucial step in the Joshlin Smith case. It's not just about guilt or innocence yet. It's about making sure the process itself is fair.
Absolutely. The prosecution will likely keep pushing for those confessions to be admitted, emphasizing that video evidence. Meanwhile, the defense is fighting back, claiming coercion, and potentially using this medical evidence as support.
And that second doctor's report, it could be the thing that tips the scales one way or the other. It could either support those claims of torture or cast doubt on them, which will have a huge impact on whether the confessions are allowed in the main trial.
This whole thing, it really makes you think about how complicated legal proceedings can be. There are so many layers, so many factors at play, and even though it's been over a year since Joshlin Smith disappeared, the search for justice is still very much in progress. The outcome of this trial within a trial, it's going to have a ripple effect on everything that comes next. We'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds.
Definitely a lot to consider. Thanks for breaking it all down.
Anytime. Glad to be here.